Okay, dear student, our topic for today, adverb frequency. Okay, this is the topic for today. Pay attention, adverb frequency. Okay, frequency has the same meaning, similar meanings in Spanish. Frecuencia. Frequency is frecuencia. Adverb of frequency obviously means los adverbios de frecuencia. It means the frequency that you do a different action. Okay. Frequency, as explained previously, is frecuencia. When do you talk the action every day? For instance, I take a shower, I brush my teeth, I have lunch. All of this you use always, todos los días. Algo que yo hago todos los días. Always, always. I take a shower, for instance, I brush my teeth, me baño, me lavo los dientes. All of this may all day. Usually is something that you two, maybe three times per week, for example. Doing an action that you do sometimes per week. No lo hacen todos los días, pero lo hacen una gran cantidad de veces. Often means sometimes. For instance, sometimes I have lunch chicken. Sometimes, okay? Or often, I often eat chicken. I often drink orange juice for my lunch. Is an example. Generally is on other frequencies. Sometimes, rarely. Rarely is when you do something that you do rarely. For instance, in my case, I rarely play video games, okay? Rarely. Raramente juego videojuegos. Rarely, okay? Something of you is possible that you have usually or always. In my case is rarely. Seldom means casi nunca. Seldom, hardly ever, or never. Never is something that you do anything, okay? Pay attention. What is the structure with this adverb frequency? The first thing that you do is the subject. Mar and Jane, or we, they, you, I. The subjects. Pay attention, the subject. Continue with the adverb of frequency. Always, sometime, often, normally, usually, seldom, or never. Okay? For the subject, second step is the adverb of frequency, and finally the verb. Sing, do you know what the meaning of sing? For instance, we always sing well. Ellos siempre cantan bien. They sometimes learn. Ellos algunas veces aprenden. You usually sing well. Okay? Usualmente cantas bien. Okay. Very good. The next. The subject. Mar, su, he, she. Look at this. This is the third person. Third person. Okay? Pay attention. For instance, he say often, and pay attention, washes, yes, because why? Because it is third person, he, she, it. In this case, it is an example. She often sings. Pay attention, you put s in the end of the verb because it's third person. Okay, in this part, subject again in this part is with verb to be. Subject isn't, it is negative. All of this because it's third person. It is third person, you use isn't according to the to be verbs rules. Isn't, okay? The adverb of frequency and the complement. Remember when I explained it, to be verb, you use the to be verb is for places, nationalities, moods, all of these occupations, for this, okay? In this case, Sue isn't often sad is an example. Sue no está muy a menudo triste. Muy a menudo no está triste. I am not normally fine. I am not normally fine. Yo normalmente no me encuentro bien. In this case, Mar and Sue, this is negative. Mar and Sue aren't seldom happy. Mar and Sue no están rara vez felices, okay? And all of this is verb to be. It is negative and it is affirmative. Sue is always sad. Sue está siempre feliz. She is normally fine. Ella normalmente está bien. You are usually happy. Tú usualmente estás feliz. Pay attention, all of this is with verb to be, and all of this is with another verb. Sing, watch, learn is another example. Okay, verb to be. When do you use verb to be? You use subject, verb to be, and adverb of frequency. Pay attention, because when do you use verb to be? Is subject and verb to be next to the adverb of frequency. Remember, I'm going to return. Remember, when do you use this? When do you use another verb is subject, adverb of frequency, and continue with the verb. But when you use to be is subject, to be, adverb of frequency, and complement. Okay, this is important that you take into account this different, okay? For this reason I explain verb to be. Subject, verb to be, is or according to the subject, and adverb of frequency. I am always tired, siempre estoy cansado. We are often happy. A menudo o de seguido estamos felices. Very good. Third person. Pay attention, because when don't use verb to be, it's important that third person. If you use I, you, we, they, no, because they are in third person. Always, usually, often, sometimes, never. But pay attention. It is third person. He, she, it. You use the third person. Adverb of frequency, you use third person, you put S, because it's a third person. She never used headphones. Okay, I'm going to give you some examples. Always, all the time, you are always late. You always late. Okay, tú siempre estás tarde, llegas tarde. Okay, this is verb to be. 90% usually. We usually go to cinema on Sunday. Usually, 90%. La mayoría de las veces, pero no siempre. We usually go to cinema on Sunday. Usualmente vamos al cine los domingos. Okay? But usually and go. Pay attention. This is verb to be. Verb to be and next adverb of frequency. This is the verb, in this case is go. Adverb of frequency and next verb. 70% often, more or less. He often cooks pasta. Pay attention. The verb here is cooks. Pay attention with this S, because it's third person. He often cooks pasta. Okay? 50%, como la mitad, a veces sí, a veces no. We sometimes order pizza for dinner. We sometimes order pizza for dinner. Okay? Nosotros algunas veces ordenamos pizza de domicilio. Sometimes. Pay attention. 10%, hardly ever, ever, or rarely, muy rara vez. She hardly ever smiles. She hardly ever smiles. Pay attention with the S, because it's third person. Ella rara vez sonríe. And 0%, never. They are never at home when we call. Nunca están en casa cuando yo llamo. Okay, pay attention with this. Pay attention. Take into account. Important thing. First, when do you use verb to be? Verb to be is the first and continue with the adverb of frequency. And finally, the complement. When do you use another verb different verb to be? Use subject, the adverb of frequency, and continue with the verb. Okay? In this case, when do you use third person? You use subject, adverb of frequency, cooks with S in the end. We sometimes order pizza. Pay attention. The verb is order. And you don't use orders, because we is not third person. You don't write here are, because it's not verb to be. The verb in this case is order. Next, she hardly ever smiles. She hardly ever smiles. Pay attention with this, okay? Hardly ever. They are never at home when we call. They are never. In this case, pay attention. To be, are is verb to be. Do you put verb to be and continue with the adverb of frequency? All of this is important. When you use always, usually, often, sometimes, hardly ever, or never. Be careful. Common letter errors. Los errores que casi siempre se cometen. Pay attention. We usually are. No, it's impossible because the first is the verb to be. We, the subject, verb to be, and next to the adverb of frequency. We are usually the first people to arrive at work each morning. Okay? Adverb of frequency usually come after verb to be. After verb to be. First verb to be and next adverb of frequency. Number 2. It takes usually. No. First you use usually and next to the verb. When do you use to be? It's first to be. When do you use another verb? It's first the adverb of frequency. Usually and next continue with takes. Okay, because it's not to be verb. Adverb of frequency usually come before verb. That other than to be. Because in to be is first verb to be. Number 3. The price of gas has never been as high it is now. Pay attention. When the verb has two parts, is using or has using, the adverb of frequency usually come between the two parts, okay, in different tenses. For instance, pay attention. Never has been, no. You say has never been, between, in the middle, two verbs. And number 4, I don't never test while driving. Double negatives are not possible. Double negatives, no. Don't never, not. Okay, pay attention with this. This is the activity. Where at this moment, we are going to think in an action. For instance, in my case, I'm going to ask something. How often do you? This is the way do you ask with adverb frequency. Okay, when do you have a question, do you use how often do you? How often do you, for instance, watch a movie? If somebody asks to me, Teacher Juliana, how often do you watch a movie? I say, I sometimes watch a movie. Another is an example. How often do you take vitamins? I say, I rarely take vitamins. The next, how often do you stay up late? ¿Te levantas tarde? My question, Teacher Juliana, how often do you stay up late? Never. It's impossible because I am mom. I have a baby. The baby is impossible. Stay up late, not, and I work all the time. How often do you read a book? Sometimes. This is my possible answer. Sometimes I read a book. The next, how often do you drive a car? My answer in this case is never, because I don't know, I can't drive a car. I don't know how it's possible to drive a car. If my answer will be never. How often do you drive a car? Never. How often do you go to cafe? Sometimes. I often go to cafe. How often do you eat chips? Sometimes. Sometimes. All of these, okay? And finally, you use never, rarely, sometimes, often, and always. Okay, this is the activity. Pay attention with this. The idea is with activity is not necessary you write, you practice, okay? You practice because it's very important you practice with another person. You ask something all of this, and the other person answer, okay? This is important for today. Okay, the topic will be clear for you. Okay, I'm going to make a short review about the topic. Excuse me. About the topic, okay. Quickly, brief review. Adverb of frequency, this is the frequency. Okay, this is the structure with another verbs, with verb to be, in negative and in affirmative, okay. The verb to be, when do you use to be? Subject, to be, adverb of frequency, and complement. With another verbs, it's different. You use the subject, adverb of frequency, verbs, And complement, this case is so important. It is third person. You all the time use uses, okay, s in the end. It's an example. Look at this: to be, first to be, next to the verb. In this case, the verb is good. Adverb of frequency next to the verb. Okay, in this case is third person. The verb is cook, but it's third person for the reason I put s. Okay, but it's not to be. We sometimes order pizza. She hardly ever smiles. Pay attention. In this case, s, because she, third person. They are never at home when we call. In this case, first the verb to be are, and continue with never at home when we call. Pay attention with the mistakes. Are usually no, because it's verb to be. In verb to be, usually are, excuse me, no, usually are not. Is are usually. Verb to be, first verb to be. Number 2, usually takes. It is okay. It's not takes usually, because when it's another verb, it's first the adverb of frequency. Finally, when you use two verbs, you don't say never has been. No, you divide the verbs and put the adverb of frequency. Has never been. Okay? And don't, negative are not possible. You say don't, never, no. When you say never, you say nunca. It's negative. It's not necessary you write don't. And this is a short activity about you make question and answer to the other person. Okay, pay attention. This is the activity. Try to do the activity. It's not necessary you pause, okay? The idea is only you practice, because for the next class we have another activity. For the next class we are going to present our speaking for the third term. Okay, I'm going to explain today our meeting today, but practice, okay? Okay, dear student, this is the end, okay? I wait that the information was clear for you. Okay, bye bye, and see you in the next class.